Hello and welcome to the Tough Girl Podcast, a 3-time award-winning show that aims to motivate and inspire you while increasing the amount of female role models in the media, especially in relation to adventure and physical challenges. I'm your host, Sarah Williams. If you're passionate about adventure, challenge and learning from women who have overcome obstacles and achieved remarkable things, then this is the podcast for you. Every Tuesday at 7 a.m, new episodes go live featuring incredible women who share their stories, insights and tips to help you achieve your dreams and goals. You can support the Tough Girl mission by signing up as a patron. Visit Patreon, patreon.com/Tough Girl Podcast. Keep listening until the very end as I share more information about what's going on with me with Tough Girl Challenges, give shout outs and recommend other Tough Girl Podcast episodes. More information can be found at toughgirlchallenges.com.
My name is Zoe Langley-Wathen. I like to adopt the tag of writer, speaker and adventure seeker. It's that's kind of crept up on me, I guess, over the last few years. In 2011, I walked the Southwest Coast Path solo at the age of 40 and thinking that was all going to be just one walk to mark my big birthday. And it wasn't just one walk. It's just kind of turned into a complete lifestyle change, really. So then I walked the Wales Coast Path the following year, became the first woman. What did I become? Sarah, what did I become? The first woman to walk the Wales Coast Path. I am now in perimenopause. So occasionally, as you've just experienced, I will forget what I'm about to say. But so it's been really a life change and lots of adventuring, lots of walking, lots of pushing myself out my comfort zone, stretching my resilience, building my resilience. And it's just gone from one thing to another. And people now have just got to a point where they say to me and my husband, so where are you this week? Where are you this year? Where are you living? We've just completely lost track of where you are. So we went from living in a house in Dorset. In 2020, we moved to a boat. We lived on a narrowboat for what was supposed to be just a year. It's our mature gap year, and it ended up being for 3 years. And we're now living in Somerset, in a house in Somerset, and loving life and loving adventures and the thought of adventures as well, because we've had a couple of years, let's say, where we've had to put our adventures on hold because of things that needed to be dealt with. But yes, things are good, things are exciting, and I'm looking forward to sharing more with you about what's going on.
Love it. And for those that don't know, me and Zoe, we've actually known each other since 2015 because we met at the women's I'm gonna forget things now. The Women's Expo, which was down in Bristol. Was it called the Women's Expo? Women's Adventure Expo.
Women's Adventure Expo. It was the WAE, Women's Adventure Expo.
Which was phenomenal. I think it only ran for about 2 years, but I met so many amazing women through that. And you were there with Ari Beresford-Webb, which was like freaking awesome. And you first came on the Tough Girl podcast actually in 2017, which was amazing. And then, in that episode, we really did talk in detail about you turning 40, taking on this big solo challenge, walking the Southwest Coast Path and how it sort of changed your life. And then we caught up again with you in 2019 on August 29th, where you shared more about your love for long distance walking, 100 mappy days and Head Right Out, which was how Wath Walk, your website, evolved into Head Right Out as a brand. And during that episode, you talked more about going solo. You talked about horrendous weather in the UK. You're completing your 50th mappy day on New Year's Eve, spending your time by yourself when things don't go to plan. It was really great episode. Well, to be fair, they're all great episodes. But I was just saying, before we started chatting, oh my goodness, I can't believe it's been so long since we spoke, because I've seen you, and during that time you actually started your own podcast and I've been one of your guests. But do you want to talk more about your podcast and what you cover off, and obviously the amazing guests that you have on?
Yes, thank you. That was it was prompted by you, Sarah, because when we met back in it wasn't actually in 2015 when we first met. I think it was in 2017 when we met at a workshop at the Women's Adventure Expo. And you heard me speak and you said to me about, me being more of a storyteller in the way I was speaking. And you said, you really should start a podcast. And then bit by bit, you just chipped away at me over the years. And eventually you ground me down, and I started a podcast in 2021. And I tell you what, I absolutely loved it. We were on the boat. We were living on the boat at that point, and we had to get creative about how it was going to happen. Certainly Wi-Fi was quite tricky on the boat, trying to get enough signal to talk to some people. But I think people really appreciated, especially because it was sort of during those COVID years, they appreciated being involved in somebody's life that was so close to nature. I mean, we could hear the birds outside. We could hear the dogs barking outside. I think we had dogs barking on your episode, actually. We could hear the owls hooting. We could hear the people that were having raves on, holiday boats, the hire boats, that, that were going past, and then it would make the boat swing backwards and forwards, And so all of these little quirky things about living on a narrowboat really kind of came to the forefront for the listeners. And I know a lot of people said they really appreciated not having a really clean studio sound, but listening to kind of real life. And that's really what the podcast is about. It's real life for midlife women. So I talk to, it's called Head Right Out, and I talk to midlife women who are pushing their comfort zone in the outdoors. So I've spoken to yourself, I've spoken to paddleboarders and mountaineers, ocean swimmers, climbers, all sorts of people. And the only criteria is that they identify as female and they are 40 years and upwards. And I've tried to speak to as many older women as I can, because there's always that danger that as we get older, and I felt this myself, I'm 53 now, and there's that danger that as we get older, we start to retreat into ourselves and we lose that curiosity to adventure. There's a danger that we might lose that belief in ourselves that we can get out and do these things. So I really, really wanted to promote adventure for midlife women because I felt the power of it at 40, and I wanted to ensure that I still continued to feel the benefit of it, but also that other women would feel the benefit of it too.
And it was shortlisted for Best Urban Adventure Podcast, and it was a finalist in the Podcasting for Business Awards 2022 in Best Health and Wellbeing Podcast. So I know the links are on your website, so I'll make sure I include the links to the podcast so that people can go and listen to those conversations with resilient women. But if we which was amazing to do, by the way, especially, over the COVID years. But let's talk about sort of 2020 and 2021, because a couple of things happened for you which sort of led you down on this path where you, like you said at the start, where you are a writer. So, we've covered a little bit about being a speaker, and you give talks as well. But being a writer, you said yes to something. Do you want to share more about that? What happened in that instance?
Yes, so we were heading off to move to our boat in March 2020. We were due to move to the boat on the 28th of March, I think we were due to leave. And we all know what happened on the 23rd of March. That was lockdown. Now, at that point, we'd already emptied our house of virtually everything. Even the cat had gone, bless him. He was being fostered by my daughter. But we had no bed, no fridge freezer, no washing machine, no TV. Not that we watch TV anyway. We still don't have a TV now. We had nothing that was really of any use to us. And so lockdown happened. We ended up glamping in an empty house for 4 months. And some people would have said, okay, so what would you have done? That could have been potentially quite boring. It could have been very difficult, quite hard on our relationship. But we just dealt with it just like another adventure. And partway through that time, in addition to camping in the front garden when we didn't have the bed, so we didn't have any grass out the back. So we just ordered a very expensive tent off of Facebook Marketplace, and I think we got it half price. And so, yes, we ended up camping out in the front garden for a few nights until we could borrow a bed. Yeah, I would say it was a couple of weeks in, I had a conversation with some people who, linked to the Yes Tribe. And John Doolan, he is an editor, amongst other things, and he had already published 2 other anthologies of stories about tales of adventure that people had had where they'd said yes to something that they perhaps wouldn't ordinarily have said yes to. And this message just came up on Facebook saying, I'm looking for more people to be in this anthology. Who's up for saying yes? And of course, I was already in the right frame of mind for being adventurous, having camped out in the garden and glamping in this empty house. And I thought, yeah, actually, I do fancy writing a story of adventure. And so I think a book I'd read the year before had kind of tickled my adventure senses, or my writing senses, and that was The Salt Path. And I'm sure lots of listeners have read that. And it was loaned to me when I was recuperating from a ski knee injury that I'd had the previous year. And that had already got me thinking maybe I would perhaps write a memoir one day about my experience on the Southwest Coast Path, walking that path solo at the age of 40. And lots of things happened during that time. And so I did. It was a 5,000-word chapter. I had no desk to write at, so Mike managed to find an old door from the attic of the garage, the sort of the roof space in the garage. And we had 2 moving boxes, Pickford's moving boxes, and he laid this old door out for me. And I sat there and I wrote my 5,000-word chapter. And then John put out a request for illustrators, and I can do a bit of drawing. And so I said, yeah, I'll do that too. So I illustrated my own chapter, and that was so exciting, really thrilling to see for the very first time my words in print, and actually a drawing of my own in print as well. I mean, that was quite a big thing for me. And so that really sowed the seed for me for wanting to do more, to write more. The process, I absolutely love the process. I loved the process of podcasting and editing and kind of connecting the words to sound so that people could listen to them. But this whole process of connecting the words on paper so that they could be read and digested and understood in a particular way by my readers. Again, it was just, it's all about creativity. And I guess I'm a big creative at heart. And yeah, I just threw myself into it in a big way and ended up helping with the marketing of the book as well. And yeah, it was a big thing in 2020.
It was a big thing. And also almost like a stepping stone as well, for you to write that chapter, 5,000 words in the biggest book of Yes, for you to help with the marketing, to help with the artwork and stuff. I suppose it just sort of gave you that, I suppose, knowledge and skills to be like, actually, do you know what? I do have a story worth writing about and worth sharing about. So how was your writing journey? Like actually committing and I suppose sitting down to start pulling things together. Did you have a process or a method that you followed? How did you kickstart the writing of your journey on the Southwest Coast Path?
Well, for starters, it really helped because I had kept diaries. So for every adventure that I've undertaken, I've always kept some form of journal, log, diary, whatever you want to call it. Sometimes it might be just bullets, just to jog my memory. And then as I've got older, I've realized I prefer to write more long form as long as I can find the time and the energy. Because obviously, as you all know, when you're on a big long jaunt somewhere, finding the energy to actually write anything is really tough. It can be really hard work, especially if you've got to update social media and do all the other things as well. And sort your kit out and sort your body out and attend to all of these things that need attending to. But I had kept this diary for the Southwest Coast Path, and that was what I drew on to begin with. My process it wasn't hard, I'll be honest. I think partly because it was during that time where everything was shaken up anyway. You know, COVID, all of our routines were completely shaken up and whisked around and then spat out in a completely different way. And we were just left to adjust accordingly. And I found that I adapted really well to that. I would get up early in the morning when Mike was still asleep, generally, and sit down and try and get at least 1,500 words down on paper. And am I talking about now the biggest book of Yes? Or am I talking about the book? No, I think
we're talking about your book. Actually, what's the title of your book?
So my book is called 630 Miles Braver, Midlifing on the Southwest Coast Path. And that was where that process really did begin for me, of getting up early in the morning, writing a minimum of 1,500 words. For a while there, I was connecting with the London Writers' Salon, which throughout the lockdown period, they were free to use. You just logged in. It was like a Zoom link. You just logged in, and they were operating an hour. Actually, it worked out to be 50 minutes of supported writing time. No, not supported. What would be the word I'd use? It was side-by-side writing. So everybody was sat, typing away, looking at their screens, but you're very aware that you can see this sea of heads for those people that hadn't turned their videos off. But everyone is just beavering away, trying to get their words down. And it would always start with an inspirational quote, and it would end with, them picking on one or two people to share what they'd achieved in that 50 minutes. And I found that really motivational. And certainly that routine helped me. I also found, and some people will think this is a bit weird perhaps, but whenever Mike came back, and we were then on the boat by this point, whenever Mike came back from a day out, wherever he'd been, if he'd been working or if he'd just, been to see friends, he would come back and ask me how I'd gotten with my writing, and I would read him what I'd written. And there were two reasons for this. One is because Mike is quite a bit older than me, and he finds it harder to remember a lot of the details of the walks that we've done together. And so hearing them back again, he's reliving those moments, and it's a joy to see his face light up. And, I'd forgotten about that, or just sparks then another memory or a conversation between us. And then the other reason is that it then, by reading it out loud, you hear how the words are going to sound to your potential reader. And that, for me, is really important as somebody who loves to speak, as somebody who loves to recite. I mean, I can remember as a teenager and a child reciting things either at church, when I was going to church with my parents, or at school, or in other situations. I used to love having the opportunity to stand up and recite things or read readings or poetry. And so it was really important to me that it sounded good, and the balance of the words sounded right. So it worked really well. That whole process of getting up early in the morning and writing and then reading it out loud afterwards. And it's still continued now, I guess. Although at the moment, I'm not so good at getting up early, but up until about 6 months ago, I was still getting up at 5:30 in the morning and getting words down on the page, so on the digital page, and then continuing with what other things I had to do, admin or artwork or editing. But it will come back again. I think that's just a little blip, a perimenopause blip of not being able to get up early.
Your book is ready now. It's going to be published, and I know you've been working very, very hard on the artwork. Tell us more about the publishing date and your plans for sort of launching it.
So it's launching on the 15th of April, and I am really like tight to the bone now with the artwork, because I really should have had that done a month ago, but I haven't. So I'm yeah, just trying to get that finished. In terms of launch, because I was a little bit unsure of myself, I guess, a little bit of imposter syndrome there, perhaps. I was a bit unsure of myself, so I didn't book a launch venue. Now, I do have a launch venue in mind, but it will be kind of like a small in town, our town, sort of 3 miles away. It will be a small event there, I imagine. However, I do have a different kind of launch to do instead. I say instead, as well as. So on the 25th of April, which happens to be the same day that the Salt Path releases in the UK, the film of the Salt Path, I am taking off to go and walk to Cornwall from my home in Somerset. So I should just leave from the front door and walk to Cornwall to reach St. German's Priory on the 1st of May. St. German's Priory is a beautiful old church on the other side of the River Tamar. So it's just into Cornwall, and it's where the opening night of Salt Lines will be taking place. And that's a performance, for those of you who don't know, it's a performance of the Gig Spanner Big Band. It's like a folk band. And the spoken word created by Raina Wynn, the author of The Salt Path. I attended last year, also by walking, and it was absolutely incredible. It was in a different venue last year. But I just thought, what better way to launch the book than to just go and walk, because that's what I'm about. I feel like the Salt Path almost set me off on my writing path, and then John Doolan and the S Tribe, they kind of then cemented it for me. And yeah, I just feel like this is a nod and like a little thank you, and also it will be amazing downtime. In addition to challenging myself, it will be amazing downtime to kind of be with my thoughts, because I find my best ideas and my best debriefs. That's the word I wanted. The best debriefs happen when I'm actually walking. So I'm taking off to do that solo. I'm going to reach there on the 1st of May. And this year, Mike is going to meet me at St. German's Priory. I've got him a ticket as well, so he gets to experience it too. And it's just the most beautiful performance. So yeah, really excited.
Honestly, I'm so excited for you, and also for everyone listening, that they'll be able to buy your book, read more about your story. 630 miles, braver, midlife on the Southwest Coast Path. It's going to be epic full on with that journey. But I just want to take you back a year, because, you know, you mentioned that you previously, you know, the year previously you'd done another walk, which was a solo walk with lots of wild camping that you did from Somerset to Cornwall. Tell us more about that adventure, the inspiration, and why you decided to take it on.
It was one of those crazy impromptu decisions, a very last minute. So Mike, if we just rewind a couple of years, so 2022 and 2023, not much happened for us in terms of adventure, because Mike needed a new right hip, and in 2022, and in 2023 he had a new left hip. So yeah, a lot of things were put on hold. And in 2024, a friend of Mike's said, I'm going off to walk the Camino in April. And it was the Camino Frances, which is the one that we did for our honeymoon back in 2016. And Mike said, well, you know, I will have had hip surgery about 6 months before. Actually, it was probably about 7 months before. But yeah, okay, I think I can probably do that. That's in true Mike style. He came to me and he said, okay, we're going away. Me and Kevin are going to go away and do the Camino. It's going to be end of April, all of May, and the beginning of June. It's going to mean that we're away over your birthday. Is that a problem? Of course, I said, no, that's not a problem, because it's just a birthday. You know, there's all sorts of other things that I can do. I was only a slightly bit jealous that he was off walking the Camino. I mean, when I was seeing the photos coming in, I was thinking, oh, I really, really would love to have been out there. But I knew it was a a guy's thing. And they met some fabulous people, and, you know, they had a whale of a time. And it was actually really good for Mike to go and do that kind of on his own, like not with me. It was probably about a week before my birthday, maybe, no, about 10 days before my birthday. And I'd already, a few months before, bought a ticket to go and see the opening night of Saltline. So this was going to be the first time I'd ever seen it. And I thought, it just happens to be on my birthday. What a great present for me. It means that I'm not going to have to worry about dealing with other people saying, oh, come and spend your birthday with me, or come and spend your birthday with me. No, 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 you come to us. You know, I didn't want all of that fuss. So I thought, I'm just going to go and do something for me, with me. And I was planning to take our camper van down and just drive down and go to the performance, and then go and park up in the camper van somewhere to sleep. And then I thought, actually, what am I doing? Mike's off on a walk. I've wanted to join him, but I couldn't. I would love to be doing a walk. I'm all about walking. My book is all about walking. Even the performance I'm going to see really is about walking, because Saltlines is all about the coast paths. And Rain or Win, you know, provides the words in such a way that makes you feel like you're back out on the coast path again. And I thought, she's about walking. And I thought, come on, Zoe, you just get your stuff together. Why don't you go and walk it? So I went up to my neighbour up the road with a day to spare. And I went, Kate, I'm going off for a few days. Can you look after the house for me? I said, where are you going? And I just remember the moment I said to her, I'm walking to Cornwall, she was like, right, sit down. Okay. And she went through all of the whys and wherefores, you know. Well, how long are you going to go for? Where are you going to eat? Where are you going to sleep? How much are you going to carry? How are you going to, you know, how are you going to keep in touch with people? How are we going to know what route? And it was just the sudden flurry of questions. I could tell she was so anxious for me, but also so excited. And she said, Zoe, I wish I could do that. But she said, I know I can't. And I knew in that moment that I was also quite scared, because I hadn't done a walk on my own for 10 years and I hadn't realized it. Because when you're with somebody in a partnership, in a marriage, as a couple, or even if you're not with somebody, but you're used to walking with a friend, you've always got them to rely on. And you've always got them to back up your decisions. You've always got them to bounce off of. And I realized that I hadn't done that for a long time, and I needed to pull myself together and face it and go and do it. And so I made sure Kate had my details of where I was going to be walking, roughly. I spent an evening just going over the maps, and it was really a case of using public rights of way and lanes and roads, but mostly public rights of way between Somerset and Cornwall as far as I possibly could. And I came across quite a few that were closed, that shouldn't have been closed, and quite a lot of bad weather, even in May. And Dartmoor was, wow, it was brutal. Dartmoor was brutal. It rained all day. I knew there was a storm coming in, and yeah, the rivers were flooded, and I had to reroute. I had to reroute over Dartmoor because the ranges were closed. And when I rerouted, it took me over the East Dart River. And because it'd been raining all day, what should have been just an easy plateau across the top of a waterfall, like stepping stones, was flooded. It was in spate. I ended up having to wade across that river, and I was terrified. And if you remember anything about my what I said about my fear of walking across the Erm or wading across the River Erm on the Southwest Coast Path, that you'll know how much fear that instilled in me. But I did. After 45 minutes, I got across the East Dart River. Didn't have much battery power left. I did take a map. It was the only map I took on that journey, was the map of Dartmoor, because I realised that could be tricky if I didn't have phone signal. So I did take an OS for that. And within an hour, if I'd crossed the East Dart River, I should have realised that there was going to be a West Dart River. Just logic should have told me that. And I had another river to wade across, but I got to within a mile of a road that night, and I just pitched my tent, heaved a sigh of relief on Dartmoor, just heaved a sigh of relief and thought, I'm not going to go any further. I'm going to turn my phone off. I had about 15% battery left. I'm just going to turn my phone off and deal with it in the morning. And I had the most beautiful sleep on the edge of a very mossy wood, beside a leat, which is kind of like a run of water. And yeah, just listening to the owls and unusual animal noises. But it was kind of very enchanting, or enchanted, this little place I slept in. But yeah, so the next morning I just then dropped down to Two Bridges and found there's a hotel down on the road there. And I spent about 4 hours there, drying out, writing up my diary, doing social media. They were so good to me. They took my boots and stuffed them with newspaper and took them to a drying room because I was sopping wet. Everything was wet. Anyway, so it was just such an amazing experience in so many ways. And I would say, of all of the walks I've done, I think that walk last year touched me in the most powerful way in regards to the people I met. I guess I can't put it over the top of the Southwest Coast Path because I met Mike on the Southwest Coast Path and we're now married. But the kindness of the people that I met on this walk and the way things just worked out, the serendipity. Oh my God, the serendipity. I mean, like the last night before my birthday, I've just cracked out a almost 22-mile day and I'm walking up a hill into the village of Pensilver in Cornwall, absolutely broken. And I can hear noise coming from a garden. Actually, I didn't know it was coming from a garden at that point. I could hear music and merriment and people enjoying themselves. And all I could think about was, oh my goodness, that must mean that they're having a party at the local rec by the village hall, which is where I was hoping to camp, meaning that I possibly couldn't camp there. So I was thinking a bit, what's this going to mean for me now? And then as I get to the top of the hill, I realise the music's coming from a house and somebody waves over the garden wall at me. Hey, come on in, come on in. So I start waving my walking poles and sort of dancing up the hill a bit more. And I'm invited in. I sit down. They hand me a pasty. They've got 2 boxes of homemade pasties and a beer. They've got a live band playing in the kitchen. And it was a housewarming, come 60th birthday celebration, come engagement party. So it's kind of a threefold thing. And I turned to the chap next to me and I said, oh, hi, do you live round here then? He went, no. He said, I'm not from here. He said, I come from South Petherton. I went, no. And that happens to be 3 miles away from where I live here in Somerset. And I was completely blown away. And he said, and they're from South Petherton. They're from South Petherton. That lady there, she's from Yeovil. Turns out that she works as a teacher in one of the schools that I go and do supply work in Yeovil. And the couple whose party it was, whose home it is, they used to live in South Petherton too. It was just the most incredible evening. They all sang happy birthday to me when the clock struck midnight. The band by that point were completely sparko. They were sat behind their instruments with their heads in their chests, fast asleep. I think they'd probably tanked up on a rather loss of alcohol. But so they sang happy birthday to me, and I woke up the next morning. We had breakfast butties, bacon butties, and they sent me on my way with food and an invitation to go to their wedding. Me and Mike. Just lovely, lovely people. And so it carried on. I mean, the whole of that trip, I just seemed to get myself into sticky situations, but then find a way out of it. Or people would just step into the journey. They'd step into the adventure at a point where I hadn't anticipated somebody would be there, but they just seemed to be there at the right moment even if it was just to offer me a word of support. And that made all the difference. And then other times it was to offer me a cup of tea in their home, or, a bed for the night on their sofa. So yes, it was amazing. And then I got to Carnglaze Caverns, and I'd been tagging Raina all week to let her know I was coming. But because I was posting a few days behind all the time for security reasons, for safety reasons, when I queued up to see her at the end, she just looked at me and her mouth dropped and she went, "Oh, you made it." She said, I didn't think you were going to make it in time. She said, "The last time I looked, you were still out on Dartmoor somewhere." So it was just a lovely end to an amazing week. And I think I flew, I rode, I don't know what the words I'm looking for. The resilience that I built up from that trip carried me through the next few months. I just flew through the next few months because I felt bolstered by this adventure that I'd been on. It was the resilience that I'd got from it, but it was the adventure at the end of the day. And it was quite incredible. Yeah.
I love it. And talking of adventure and resilience, tell us about your next challenge, the next adventure, because it is a big one, a massive one, a huge one.
Oh my gosh, I'm actually trembling now. This is probably the biggest that I have ever attempted. And in fact, that Mike has ever attempted, because on this occasion, I won't be doing it solo. It's an adventure that Mike and I'm going to take a deep breath, have wanted to do for a very long time. So when he met me, he knew I wanted to walk the coast of mainland Great Britain. And Mike has also wanted to undertake this walk for a long time. And I'll be honest, since moving into our house 18 months ago, I guess it was now, I'm getting quite settled here and getting quite settled in the community. And I'd be quite happy to leave it for another 3 or 4 years. But Mike approached me last year. I think it was after he did the Camino, knowing that he managed on 2 new hips walking the Camino. And it was 600 miles in the end, because he walked from Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port all the way out to Finisterre, and he managed it well. So he said to me, "So we both want to walk the coast of mainland Great Britain. If I don't do it soon, I might never get the chance. And I don't want to have that regret." And he also said, "I don't want you to have the regret that I never got to do it either." And which I would. He knows that I would have that regret. And I resisted and thinking, it'll go away. He'll forget about it. He'll find something else he's got to do instead. But he brought it up again a couple of weeks later. And bit by bit, he sowed the seed that was already there. The seed was already there, but he'd watered it a bit more. And bit by bit, it started to germinate to the point where now we are both excited and we are both terrified. We'll both admit to that. But we are taking off on the 1st of October, 2025, or as close to that date as possible, to walk a minimum of 7,300 miles around the coast of mainland Great Britain. Oh my God, I've said it. I've got to do it now.
Are you going to start from your door? And what's the route? Which way are you going? What's the route looking like? So starting in October, and then where will you be at various sort of places?
So we're not starting from our front door. And actually the logistics of that is mostly because we are going to rent our house out. We can't leave the house empty for the length of time that we anticipate will be gone. So because we met on the Southwest Coast Path and we got married on the Southwest Coast Path, it's a rather special one for us. So we've decided to keep that for last. And also because we live in the Southwest, we anticipate that quite a few of our friends might want to come and walk with us towards the end. So we're leaving the Southwest Coast Path to the very end. So we're starting at the end marker of the Southwest Coast Path. And we're going to walk anti-clockwise. So we're heading around Poole Harbour and then along the south coast towards Brighton, and then obviously Kent and up through Gravesend, up to London. And we're going to go all the way up the Thames. There is a crossing. We could take a crossing a bit earlier, but we're going to go all the way up to Tower Bridge and then back down again. And our rule, so that's the way we're going. And we have a rule, a couple of rules actually. We will only do islands if they are attached to the mainland by a causeway or a bridge. And we will walk up rivers or estuaries to the nearest crossing, the nearest man-made crossing, so i.e. a bridge, and then back down again. That does add quite a bit. I did all the rough mapping for this before Christmas, and I've got about 110 maps saved in my OS Maps app, and that's just rough because some of those chunks are 300 miles long. So I do need to fine tune it at some point, although Mike started doing a bit of that.
How long do you think it's going to take you? And how much do you think it's going to cost you?
Good questions. I've estimated 24 to 28 months for us to do it. A few years ago, before Mike's hip surgery, we could have probably cracked out, and in fact, not probably could have, we have cracked out between 20 to 23 miles a day on average. But, Mike's much older now. Mike's 73 this year, and it's not right to expect him to be able to do that kind of mileage day in, day out. So we've estimated 12 miles a day for England. We've estimated 8 miles a day for Scotland and 12 miles a day for Wales, and then back to 8 miles a day for the Southwest Coast Path, just because I think there'll be lots of people wanting to come and walk with us that we know, and that can slow us down too. I say can slow us down. We're not going to be fast by any means. We're not going to be fast. By allowing those lower mileage days, it means it takes the pressure off of us. It also allows us time to have days off. It gives us opportunity to stop and talk to people, go and see things, just actually enjoy it. It also means that if one of us is injured, we can take time out. So we wanted to be sensible about how much time we were allowing for that. Cost wise, we've estimated this is going to just sound hideous, but we've estimated for the two of us for 2 years, 4 months, about £35,000 to £40,000.
Whoa.
Yes. Because
what?
I know, because that's what we've allowed for two of us. We might not spend that, but if you think, if we do end up having to stay somewhere overnight, as opposed to camping, we have to feed ourselves. If we do need to take a train back to somewhere. So that sounds like a lot of money, but if you think two of us for 2 years, 4 months, I'm not a great mathematician, so to do it in my head is tricky. But let's say £40,000, if it was that, that's £20,000 for 2 years. So that's 10,000 for one person to live on each year, which £10,000 for a year to live on isn't a lot, in this day and age. But that's also including the kit. So I should have said this at the beginning. That also includes any new kit that we have to buy. So new boots, warmer sleeping bags, jackets. I still have my old Paramo that I've been using since the Southwest Coast Path. It's 14 years old now and it's falling to pieces, but I love it. It's been so good, but I know it's going to need to be replaced. Yeah, that's what we've allowed. And it makes it sound like it's unmanageable for somebody else potentially to do. But I realise we're in a privileged position where we can rent the house out and we can survive on the rent that's coming in from the house and Mike's pension. So that's how we're working it. So we're not stumping up that kind of money to begin with. It's over a period of time.
I really appreciate you being that open about it, because it's also like, if there are activities that you want to do or places that you walk past and you think, well, actually, yeah, we want to pop into there, or actually let's go on that ferry ride, or let's go to that museum, or let's explore that country house, you want to make sure that you can do it. So I can see, actually, yeah, 2.5 years. Wow. Yeah. But also at least you've got the house rented out.
It does sound like a lot of money. And I balked at, the amount when I first worked it out. But I thought, well, actually, by the time you add in the kit as well, I mean, we could easily spend £1,500 just on kit.
I was just going to say, I just did, so because I track all my challenges, I know roughly how much it costs me per day. And I think the UK hikes are around like £33-35 per day. So if you do 28 months and we'll say roughly 30 days, that's 840 days that you could be out there, times £30, that's 25,200. And then actually times two. So your budget is actually a lot cheaper than the 50,400 I've pulled up. Now someone's going to be copying my maths. I'll be like, I hope my maths is right. What are you going to do about Scotland? Because that's a lot more wilderness. Not because obviously with England, you've got the Wales coastal path, you've got the Southwest Coast Path. They're connected all the way along to Brighton with the King Charles III coastal path. There's a lot more sections of that which has been completed. It's not fully completed, but Scotland, it's a lot more remote, a lot more like, have you thought about Scotland?
Oh, we
I mean,
thought a
obviously you
lot
have,
about,
but
yes.
or are you just like, that's the problem for when we reach Scotland?
Scotland is my new nemesis. Yeah, definitely it's a cause for concern for us, for both of us. I think I will be looking to pick the brains of some friends, or there's people who are navigation experts, particularly in Scotland, because it's knowing how long we will be remote for, particularly in the Western Highlands. At the moment, we've got this huge map on our wall downstairs in the kitchen, and we've plotted where we think we're going to be at a certain time. And it looks like we could be days away from anyone and anywhere on the western side. At the moment, we don't know whether it's going to be best to hit the western side in the summer or the winter. I know that sounds crazy. Most people will be screaming at us saying, no, don't be there in the winter because of snow. But, you hear are the midges worse? I don't know. It's a hung jury, I think, on that one. There's so many people who have told us different things. But I plan to do a lot of talking as well with other coast path walkers, because it feels like Scotland, although Scotland has the right to roam, it feels like Scotland won't be easier because it has the right to roam. It actually feels harder because I don't know where we can go. Looking at the map, just looking at an OS map, I understand, from looking at the topography and the diagrams on the map, whether it's steep, whether it's rocky, whether it's marshy, I understand all of that. But when you've got multiple blue lines that run from hills down to water, to me, that suggests that could be more river crossings, which we want to try and avoid doing. It's got to be safe. We want to be as close to the coast as possible, but we need to be safe.
You've got like the John O'Groats Trail, which is, I mean, there's a bit which isn't coastal, but then the majority is coastal all the way to the top. And then I'm sure there is a trail which connects, because I've looked at this previously, that connects the John O'Groats Trail to the Cape Wrath Trail. But you wouldn't consider doing the Cape Wrath Trail because that's obviously not coastal, but it does take you down the west of Scotland, but not all those inlets. I mean, there's a hell of a lot of inlets, isn't there?
There's so many inlets, and it made me feel quite ill when I was going up and down all of these inlets, and thinking, oh my gosh, look at this. this was before Christmas, and I was really getting quite anxious about it, thinking, how on earth are we going to do it? And I've been keeping, every time I do more of the mapping, more of the planning, I keep a bit of a journal on that so that I'm recording how I'm feeling. There's quite a long stretch there where I don't know how we're going to keep to the coast. And it might be that we just have to keep as close to the coast as we can. But equally, the idea of walking the whole of the western side of Scotland on the road, that just feels demoralizing. I mean, you must know what that feels like from doing is it the North Island, the Tiararoa?
Road walking is not. It's not.
It's not,
really not.
That's not
why that's not why you walk. It's not pleasant. It's not enjoyable, and it will destroy your feet, your knees, your ankles, your hips.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I suppose this is this is what makes it an adventure.
It's funny you should say that, because Mike has said, although he's concerned, as I am, about Scotland, that western side of Scotland, but he's also said, we will probably get there, and it will just be a case of we figure it out when we get there, when we see it, until you're actually there, to see the lie of the land, to see, whether it's been raining, obviously those rivers are going to be fast flowing, but if it's the middle of summer, you can probably hop, skip and jump across them. So we're not going to know until we get there. And like you say, that is part of the adventure.
Don't let the fear of the unknown stop you from enjoying.
Exactly. So yes, we're doing that in aid of Somerset and Dorset Air Ambulance, and raising awareness about the positive benefits of adventure for any age. That's kind of partly linked to my connection with Adventure Mind. And Mike is hoping to set a world record. So we've registered with Guinness. We're waiting to hear if that's a thing, because we can't find anything about any people that have actually walked the coast and their ages. So we've applied now, and we'll see what comes back. But yes, so we're hoping that he will be the oldest person to have walked the coast of mainland Great Britain.
There's so much exciting things happening, which I absolutely love. Like, the book launch, the challenge in October, so 1st of October. 2025 is going to be a big year. And obviously I am on the not the Wales Coast, but I am on the King Third. What is his name again? King Charles. Oh, what
Charlie.
is the coastal path? Oh my
Charlie.
God. Charlie's coastal path. I don't think that doesn't sound too respectable. Charlie's coastal path. I'm going to have to Google this now. King Charles III, England coast path. No, Charlie's coast path.
They could not have found a more long-winded path name, could they? I mean, it's got to be shortened to something. It's got to have a nickname. So we'll find something. King Charlie's Coast Path sounds good.
CCP, Charlie's Coast Path. Oh, it sounds so rude. Yeah. I am on the coast path. So we have literally got a sign outside our house, which is amazing. So I know you're definitely coming to stay with me, but that won't be till 2026.
2027.
Oh, what?
No, it'll be 2027, Sarah.
Oh, yeah, I suppose. Yeah, because
we estimate we'll be in Scotland for about a year to 14 months.
Then you'll be cruising down the coast. Then, once you finish out of Scotland and get onto the England coast path up north. The northwest coastal path. I feel as though that's also that has been quite well completed. It's true. More of the trail probably. Well, actually, no. Most of the west side of the trail will have been completed at that point. So, yeah. Oh, okay. So 2027, date for the diary. How can people connect with you? How can they follow along with your journey? I know you're going to be documenting, you're going to be sharing on social media. Where are you going to be most active?
So I'll be most active on Instagram. So I'm head right out on Instagram. But yeah, they can always come to headrightout.com and find out more there. Although how I'm going to be updating the website, or how much I'm going to be updating the website as I go, not sure how that's going to work yet. But yes, certainly on Instagram, I will be there. And that pushes over to Facebook as well. So
I will make sure that I share all of your links to your social media, to your website, so that people can connect and can follow along, get more information about your book and about this next amazing challenge, walking around Britain. Just absolutely phenomenal. What an adventure. What a challenge. We will also be doing some catch up podcast episodes, hopefully, while you're on the road, when you've got some Wi-Fi, to keep people updated on the journey. But Zoe, I'd love for you to have the final words of wisdom and advice. I suppose like one of the words that you have talked about, and it's in your book title, is bravery, being brave to take on new challenges and new adventures. And obviously this is a hugely brave and exciting challenge that you're going to be taking on with Mike. But words of advice for other women who want to be brave, who want to take on new challenges and adventures, and apart from obviously just do it, what other advice would you like to share to encourage women?
It's about discovering that adventure has no age limit. And so definitely if you're in your midlife years and older, I think I would encourage you to find ways to push yourself out of your comfort zone. You think of your comfort zone as a muscle that just needs working, it needs stretching, do a little something every day. And it's the same with your comfort zone. So find ways of pushing yourself every day. Just keep going out there and inching further. There's something else actually as well that really has helped me, and I hope other people will sort of tap into this too. Over the years, I've been doing adventures. I've been regularly reading and listening to others doing similar stuff and engaging with them in social media groups. And so fill your spare time with audiobooks, podcasts, read books about the sorts of things that you think you might want to get involved with, and then write down. So that power of writing things down is also such a tonic and such a, what's the word? Well, it's powerful. I didn't want to say the word power again, but it is powerful. So write down what it is you want to do and how you feel about it. And then when you actually go and do it, hopefully you will actually get to go and do it. So when you do it, keep a diary. Could just be jotting down bullets like I've done in the past, but make sure you keep that diary. And then after you've done it, write down again how it made you feel. Would you do it again? What would you do differently? It's almost like that debrief with yourself. And, it's amazing how, I've been doing this for 14 years now with all of the adventures that I've done, how instrumental that's been to how I think about myself and how I think about approaching these adventures. And it might help you process further what you're frightened of and what you think you need to do in order to be able to tackle those fears. Is it just that you need to coach yourself through with something? Is it just that you need somebody else who's with you do a particular thing to help you through? But yeah, so listening to things and engaging with other people and writing things down. Those would be my 3 tips.
Absolutely awesome tips. So thank you so much for coming back on the Tough Girl Podcast Extra and sharing more about what you've been up to since we last spoke to you in 2019, and just best of luck with the book and the next challenge. I'm just so excited to follow along and watch this journey unfold. It's going to be incredible.
Oh, Sarah, thank you so much for your support. And this has been absolutely incredible, so amazing. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in 2027. Thank you.
Hey, tribe. I really hope you enjoyed that catch-up episode with Zoe. What an absolute legend. What an absolute inspiration. Please do go and check out her book, or everything that we have talked about today will be available in the show notes at toughgirlchallenges.com. And the other thing I just need to mention here is, so Zoe came and actually joined me for like the final stretch of the Southwest Coast Path, which I walked last year. I have got all the video footage. It is sitting in folders in my Dropbox, winking at me, saying, edit me, and put me out on YouTube. And I just haven't managed to get around to it. It is on my to-do list. I just haven't been able to prioritize it, but I will be editing it soon. And once I edit it, they will be going live on the Tough Girl YouTube channel. So you'll be able to watch my journey and my experiences on the Southwest Coast Path, which I highly recommend, by the way. It is a phenomenal walk. So definitely put that down on your bucket list. Just want to continue our shout outs to members of the Tough Girl Tribe. This time we are heading all the way over to Australia. Yes, we do have listeners. We have listeners all over the world in 210 countries, which is absolutely epic. Big shout out to Donna, who is just living life, but while living life, she is also volunteering for a community independent candidate for the federal election. So life is full of politics, work is busy, but she has managed to get back to her judo, and you are currently in the process of heading off to Spain to do the Camino Primitivo, which is absolutely amazing. So I did the Camino Primitivo a couple of years ago. It's a mountainous route. It's absolutely stunning. I think you're going to have an incredible time. Also, big shout out for getting involved in politics. Women's voices need to be in politics, and obviously we just need more women elected all around. One of my favorite politicians, just shouting out there, is AOC in America. She's an absolute legend. I love following her online and hearing her take on what's going on, especially in American politics. Heading over to America, Ultra Miriam, who's also been on the Tough Girl podcast and shared more of her story. So Miriam is currently starting to taper for the endless endurance old 6-day track ultra. Let me say that again. Miriam is starting to taper for the endless endurance old 6-day track ultra. Miriam will be circling the track in the 72-hour event in April at the age of 66, which is still super young. This was going to be Miriam's 42nd ultra, and it is special because last April, Miriam was diagnosed with early stage breast cancer, which she beat in June. And she's going to be collecting miles of gratitude as she runs around that track. Miriam, best of luck with that ultra challenge. What an endurance, literally an endless endurance challenge. Just incredible. I love what you are doing, your positivity and your passion for running. We have spoken to you previously on the Tough Girl podcast. So if you want to learn more about Miriam's story, please do go and check out her first episode when we spoke with Miriam. But just good luck to everyone out there, especially for for showing up, for turning up, for volunteering, for getting involved, for planning adventures, to head off to Spain to walk a Camino, to sign up for events that are going to challenge you and test you, and collecting miles of gratitude, which I absolutely love. I actually shared this with someone who was running their first half marathon, and I sort of said one of the tips and tricks, obviously, that I've heard through the women sharing their stories on the Tough Girl podcast is about sort of miles of gratitude. And I think I did something along the lines of each mile you run for a person, so every mile you think about that person for that, whether it's an 8-minute mile, a 10-minute mile, a 15-minute mile, a 20-minute mile, you just think about that person, what they've done, what they've gone through there, how they've blessed you by being in your life, the advice and tips that they've provided to you, the fun memories that you've had together, which I think can be a really, really powerful way of just sort of, getting through the miles, but sort of, making it special. But miles of gratitude. Thinking back, I also used to do that on the Appalachian Trail. When I was having really tough times, it would be like every time I saw a blaze on a tree, I'd have to say something I was grateful for. And you think, well, Sarah, that's easy. Trust me, sometimes it is not easy. I'm like scraping the barrel to find gratitude. But if you persevere, every time you see that white blaze, you're another, well, at least it's not snowing. Okay, at least it's not raining. Do you know what? At least I'm not sat in an office. Or at least I'm not staring at a computer screen. Do you know what? At least I'm doing something I love. Aren't those trees amazing? Isn't that a beautiful view? Oh, I've got a Snickers in my backpack, whatever it may be. But gratitude is an incredibly powerful mental resilience tool. But Donna and Miriam, massive shout out to both of you. Thank you for being members of the Tough Girl Tribe. Thank you for being incredible women. Really appreciate everything that you're doing in your communities. It's amazing. Thank you to everyone for listening. And if you'd like to support the work that I do, if you'd like to become a member of the Tough Girl Tribe, then please do go and sign up as become a patron. Visit Patreon, patreon.com/Tough Girl Podcast. There's an annual option and there are monthly options available. And you can sign up whether you're in America or you're in Australia or you're in Europe or you're in Brazil or Argentina or Chile or in Africa or in China, Mongolia. Actually, I don't know about China. I must have listeners in China. Yes, I must have listeners in China. Big shout out to all my listeners in China. I'm just looking at my world map now and just naming off countries. But thank you so much for listening. All that's left for me to say is wherever you are, whatever you are doing, give it your all, give it 110%, get after it, go for it, believe in yourself, because I believe in you. Take care, lots of love, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.